Get comfortable, reminding yourself that you can change your posture at any point. You can have a sip of water. You can pretty much do anything you like, including the muting of this mic of your speakers. Because sometimes it's just nice to have a quiet meditation, a silent meditation, but yet know that you're in a group. And one thing you'll gradually begin noticing as you practice, especially as you practice in groups such as this, where there are guided meditations, where someone is guiding you, the voice is secondary. The voice is not that important. It's not important at all because the voice is just there to catch you. It's like a safety net. You already know how to be aligned. You already know how to reach that stillness. You already know. And if you can just identify any moment in your life where you felt peace, where you felt what you would refer to as joy or happiness. And remember, when you define words such as joy, such as happiness, such as peace, try to release all those definitions that we've read about. Try to release all those definitions that you've come across through, especially through the advertising industry. Because for them, joy usually means a new car or smiling, laughing. But to each and every one of us, it's very personal. It could be just taking a walk in a park, being with nature. It could be just being with your pet or an animal, being with a loved one, having a scoop of ice cream. It's those little moments where we climb outside of our mind. And you often see this happening especially when you travel. That's why we love our holidays. My reason for beginning in this way is just to remind you that this meditation, this practice is nothing new to you. You've been there. You've been here. When we travel, when we go to new places, we see new things. We hear new sounds. There are new smells. We taste new foods. And sometimes the temperature is significantly different from the way it was back home. And so every single one of these senses, they become doorways into the present moment. And you become more present. You step outside of your thought process, outside of your mind. And you might be in a chaotic market where there are millions of sounds, horrible smells, but you still feel peaceful because you've left your problems behind, you've left your challenges behind, you've left all of those stories behind. So why do we sit in rooms like this? Because I know many people who wouldn't come close to this sort of practice. And I'm related to many of them. They love their holidays, and it's one holiday after the other. And they probably experience the same level of peace and stillness that we do. But our reason for meeting in this way, for practicing in this way, is just to discover that we can actually experience all of that without moving even a single inch away from where we are. We can experience that feeling that we have when we have that incredible ice cream or glass of wine right here, right now. Because when it's to do with the taste buds, again, you step outside of your mind. That taste, that exquisite taste, especially when it begins, it brings you into alignment. And then we keep chasing after that same taste, but of course, it diminishes. The second bite tastes less delicious. The third bite, even less. It might be very subtle, the changes, the level of enjoyment, but ultimately we stop. It becomes numb, and but we keep taking more and more, hoping that first glimpse would of alignment, that alignment will return back to us. And that's the same with our holidays, the new things that we buy, the things that we chase after in the world outside of us. And many of us, we've already been through that chasing stage. We've bought many different things. We've been to many different places, and we've enjoyed them, but we know that the joy, the contentment, it doesn't last very long. And this is a practice where you don't have to give up anything. You do not have to give up any of your pleasures, any of your joys, but simply be more present, more mindful as to how long the contentment stays with you, how long you're able to enjoy it. Experience, and this is a wonderful experience as well, because you truly enjoy those things in front of you. When it's food, you will savor every bite, every sip. When you are in a place of beauty, you will take it all in like never before. But then gradually, and these are just words to contemplate on, you begin discovering that all of that contentment, all of that joy, all of that happiness, all of that stillness was always within us. And all that was happening is that we were living conditional lives. When we were in a beautiful place, our mind told us that this is pleasing, this is good. Now you can let the joy out. When we were in a new relationship, the mind tells us, this is good. This is very good. So you can let some of the joy out. You can let the love out. And so we think that person is bringing the love out of us. And that's actually what's happening. It's simply as though we were in control of a tap, And when we were surrounded by a pleasing environment or a pleasing person, we open the tap and let the joy and contentment flow out until we turn it off when the person is gone or not there. When we've returned back home from a holiday, we turn the tap off so that the joy no longer flows. That ice cream experience is over. We turn the joy off. In this meditation room, in any meditation room, usually your eyes are closed. Your body is moving very little. And this meditation room becomes a lab, an experiment, where you begin to learn to switch on the tap, with every condition around you still remaining the same. And whereas in one of those scenarios you needed to travel hundreds, even thousands of miles to a different place, different country, different location, where you needed to consume a particular type of food, where you needed to buy something new in order to experience that, in order to be present. In this meditation room, we use the same five senses, but in a somewhat different way, just to tap into the present moment, to the sensations that we can experience right now, here in this present moment, and see what happens. Being completely open, releasing all expectations, releasing the past, releasing the future, releasing the need to meditate, releasing the need to be mindful or practice mindfulness, releasing the need to do anything at all. I'm going to ring the bell now. And whenever any idea comes into your mind as to you needing to do something, just let go of it. Just let go of it, because we don't want to do a meditation. We don't want to do a practice. And gradually, just see what you're left with. Just see what you're left with. You're left with your posture. You might be sitting. You might be lying down. But whatever your posture may be, we can focus on that. Because the posture, with the eyes closed especially, if your eyes are closed, of course, your posture is simply made up of different sensations that you're experiencing through the different parts of your body. Some of them are in contact with the surface. Some of them are in contact with clothing. Some of them are in contact with the air around you. Now invite your mind to help you to make sense of this posture that you have adopted. And you can simply start by discovering which parts of your body are resting on a different surface, whether a chair, a cushion, a mat, a mattress. And then identify the, the joints, the lower part of the body, the joints in the lower part of the body, the toes, the knees. Because like a jigsaw puzzle, you're putting together this image, but an image based purely on experience. Because what is happening is that your mind is aligning itself into the present moment. See your mind as a library filled with information. Information such as the ability to identify where the knee is, to identify those points of contact between body and chair, body on mat or mattress. And so the mind, it feeds you the information that you need in order to translate these different sensations. Because if you were purely in the present moment, you wouldn't be able to make sense of any of these sensations. They would remain sensations. Nothing more, nothing less. But here you are examining these sensations through the filter, through the lens called the mind. You can probably hear in my background the cat flap opening and closing. That can be a call into awareness. Every sound around you, a precious, precious glimpse into the present moment. Notice you don't have to be in a busy market somewhere in Morocco or Singapore. You don't need to be in a concert hall in Vienna in order to be present through your sense of hearing. You are enveloped by a symphony of sounds. Some of them are more noticeable than others. Just like the symphony in the concert hall, where you somehow have the ability to distinguish certain instruments from the others, especially those instruments that you like or dislike. Now, one very precious learning or realization that you will begin having during this practice is that the mind can always only focus on one thing at a time. And so when it is seeking out the knee joint, it's not thinking about finances. It's not thinking about the argument you may or may not have had in the past. It's just focusing on the bend, the ligament, maybe the kneecap, maybe the skin presses. If you're on the floor, the skin pressing against skin. And that is the present moment. Can you feel the relief of just being here now? You're right, it's not very interesting. It's not very interesting. But this is just a practice, because at some point in your life, you will be in a concert hall and you will listen. And you will be aware when your thoughts interfere with the concert, and you will release the unnecessary thoughts, and you will be present. You will listen to the vocals and the instruments like never before, because you have practiced listening in presence. Not a single bite will be wasted of that cheesecake, that ice cream, that food that you adore. Not a single flavor, scent will be wasted, because you will be present. And when you are in that art gallery, that place of beauty, your home, which no doubt you have objects, things, accumulations, furniture that you brought into it. Because at some point in your life you thought it might look nice, it might be beautiful, and it is. And you will notice every color, every shade, every groove, every curve, every line, every shadow. And so this practice, it begins to make sense. A practice, that's all it is. And it's meant to be boring, simply because we are not here to stimulate new thought. Because when the televisions are on, when we're in the midst of conversations, when we're listening to the news or reading our newspapers, new thoughts are being generated. New thoughts are being stimulated because of the likes and the dislikes, the opinions we agree or disagree with. And it becomes a little bit more difficult observing this process whereby thoughts are created. But here, as we sit, we still notice even with the televisions switched off, even with the privacy that we have from family and colleagues and all of that, thoughts are still being stimulated. There's a sound that you don't like. You may or may not even like this meditation, the way in which I'm guiding it. But there is no such thing as a good or bad meditation, because it's all about simply noticing the way in which the mind reacts to the guidance, to the sound, to the sensation that's arising within your body, to the postman who's ringing the doorbell. Just watching, observing, and realizing that the mind has its own momentum. It's almost as though it's an entity that is alive in its own right. And that is how we will treat the mind from this point onwards, as a separate entity. I'm going to ring a bell now so that you can separate yourself from the mind. It's usually a nice idea to rise above your thoughts. The reason I use words such as rise above is because you are awake. You are fully awake. Even if your eyes are closed, you're fully awake and aware of your thought process. You are aware of the sounds around you, the smells, the sensations. Very different from being asleep, where your eyes are still closed, but you move below thought. So you're no longer really aware of your thoughts the way you are right now. But your breathing has slowed down. And if it hasn't, bring your attention to your breath. Breathe slowly and deeply. Examine and study the sensations. Many facilitators, many meditation facilitators, they guide you to the breath. Because the breath, unlike the body, unlike sounds, is often one of the most neutral sensations that you will experience within your body. What do I mean by neutral? It simply doesn't stimulate thought. But of course it might if you have breathing difficulties, if you have asthma. It may not be the most pleasant of sensations to tap into. But generally, most of us, we take the breath for granted. It's just unfolding in the background. You don't have to remember to breathe. It just happens. The only difference is that at this present moment, you are becoming increasingly conscious and aware of your breath. And notice how powerful awareness is. Because this awareness of breath, it's being directed by that larger part of you, that complete, indivisible part of you that is capable of directing the mind. And notice how as this director, let's call it the director, this larger part, as it becomes aware of the breath, the mind, it leaves the knee joint, it leaves the other parts of the body, and it begins to participate in this translating of sensations. And here it begins to dawn on you that your mind is indeed a separate entity, and that you are the puppet master. You can direct it, you can train it, you can program it. And right now, the program is very simple. The directing is very simple. You're telling the breath, tell me what is going on around and within the nose. And then the mind, it tells you, okay, this is called an inhalation. Now breathe in and experience all of the sensations that arise as a result of the air flowing in. This includes the temperature, of course, the direction, the humidity level, the parts, the sensitive cells within the nasal passage that are interacting with the air molecules. The individual nasal passage through which you are breathing at this moment. Just notice you don't breathe through both nasal passages at the same time. It's always one or the other, shifting in cycles, sometimes every half an hour, every 45 minutes. Is it the right? Is it the left? Can you feel those tiny hairs within the nasal passage that filter out dust particles? Notice how sensitive you can awaken these cells to be. And then notice how bored the mind can often get. Even boredom is useful in this practice. Because when you find yourself becoming bored, you know immediately that you have simply started to think about the breath. And then you realize how the mind likes only to be stimulated. It likes excitement, it likes to laugh, it likes funny things, it likes interesting things. And when it's bored of all of those or it can't get them, it makes itself miserable. Looks for fights, looks for quarrels, looks for reasons to be unhappy. So it's not very used to focusing on the present moment, on these neutral things, especially when all that's happening is breathing. But this is where you also begin to discover that it's bored of breathing because it remembers what the last breath was like. It remembers that there were 5, 10, 100, a lifetime of breathing. And so the mind immediately, because it exists within the past, it straight away dismisses every present moment breath, believing it to be insignificant. And that's why we get bored of our new cars after a month, after 2 months, maybe after a year or 2 years. That's why we stop seeing our homes. We stop noticing the artwork on the walls. We stop noticing the streets outside of us because the mind retains memories of these places, of these spaces. And pretty soon we begin to look straight through them, no longer noticing any of it, living in the past. Almost as though we created filing cabinets within our mind. If you can imagine your mind as a large warehouse, and you have filing cabinets there, one for flowers, one for the walls in your house, one for your clothing. And each time a new item comes, a new home, a new car, a new pair of shoes, a gap appears because there are no records of that item in this filing cabinet. And it's that gap that we enjoy, the stillness of not recognizing it. It's like a fix, a high. And then once we've possessed it, it can take the form of relationships, homes, cars, any of those possessions. We put it in the filing cabinet, and then the second time we see it, we don't really see it. We put it straight into the filing cabinet. And soon, as Eckhart Tolle describes this process, we see a rose, but we don't really see it. We straight away look for the filing cabinet. I know what a rose is. I learned it at school. And we don't see it. We don't see the unique flower, the unique rose in front of us, with its unique number of petals, with its shade, with its scent. We look straight through it, filing it directly into the cabinet, no longer experiencing it, no longer seeing it, no longer smelling it. Which is why we keep chasing, exhausting ourselves, buying new things, turning our homes into warehouses, spending more than we need to, moving from relationship to relationship. But there's a solution, and we're going to explore it right now with the ringing of this bell. Let go of the filing cabinets. In particular, that filing cabinet that stores all of the memories you have of breathing, of breath. Let the next intake of breath be the first breath, the only breath. A new breath, a new beginning. Here comes the bell. breathing with curiosity, with interest, breathing in deeply, filling up the lungs and the stomach, feeling the rising of the chest wall and the stomach wall. And as you exhale, as you breathe out, releasing the past, letting go of the filing cabinets. Not only the filing cabinets containing the breath, but the filing cabinets containing this morning's events, your past. Why don't we go all the way and release our names and our identities? Breathing in a new beginning. I know you've been through this practice many, many times before, but let's just call it a practice and truly begin from this moment with a blank slate so that it's no longer a routine, but a truth, our truth. And it just involves tuning, examining, studying the sensations of the breath as it flows into our experience. And letting go anything and everything that arises, focusing only on the sensations which have become so much more interesting. The breath with its increased level of humidity and warmth, now experienced through the upper lip, grounding you, possibly more than ever before, into the present moment. And with the ringing of this bell, have you noticed the name, the personality, the qualifications, the awards, the lack of awards, the lack of qualifications? They all have to do with this personality called so and so, whatever your name is, whatever my name is. And if we released our names and our personalities, there is nothing to attach these labels to. And so as we exhale and as we breathe out, feel the freedom just for this moment of no longer needing to be too unqualified or too qualified, no longer needing to be masculine or feminine, no longer too short or, or too tall, too fair or too dark, too intelligent, or whatever the opposite is. Realizing and recognizing that all of these standards have been created by the schooling systems that we went through, parents, communities, breathing in newness, freshness, lightness. Feel the coolness of the air, its crispness as it enters into, just like a new beginning should feel. And then feel the heaviness and the warmth and the humidity as the breath leaves us, as we exhale, letting go. Feeling the balancing, the harmony, the stillness of no longer needing to hold on to anything. Breathing in, releasing. Diving into the present moment. Using the breath to assist us in this dive. Where every breath inwards, every intake of breath, a dive into the stillness, into the kindness, into the peace, into that joy that up until now, we have only occasionally been allowing out, depending on the conditions around us. But now, visualizing yourself turning on the tap, that tap that allows all that is within to now flow through into this space around us. This stillness, as it begins to flow out, almost as though the tap was located around the nostrils. This stillness, this kindness, this peace moving through the whole face, bathing the whole scalp and the ears, and then the neck. And like a warm shower or oil bath flowing down through the arms and the shoulders and the chest and the stomach and the upper and lower back. Through the hips, the legs, the knees and the calves and the feet and the heels and the soles of the feet and the tips of the toes. Releasing an intention. Let there be peace within my body. Let every cell within my body be in harmony with each other. that I shall not interfere, and I shall simply allow every cell to experience the present moment. Surrender your bodies, your cells, your muscles, your skin to the forces of gravity, so that you find yourself landing on your chairs and your cushions even more than before, so that you arrive into this present moment. Releasing your thoughts, no longer allowing your thoughts to carry you away. Just enjoying the present moment with its balance and its stillness and its kindness. The kindness that you can experience through every cell of your body. And you know it is because right now people could say whatever they want, they could do whatever they want. You're less likely to react. You'll just watch them, you'll smile, you'll let them go, you'll understand. And why keep all of this within our body? This bell, so that your skin, so that your form dissolves. Once again, letting go of the personality known as whatever your name is, so that this joy and happiness, remember, it's what it means to you, reaches the corners of this room, bathes all of the furniture, and you tell the furniture, please forgive me for not noticing you before. Thank you for being here. And it's not unusual to speak to your furniture, because all of the traditional cultures, the Aboriginal cultures, some of the most ancient cultures, they recognized the consciousness and the awareness, the energy within every atom and molecule that made up this world of form. And so this kindness, this joy, it reaches the walls and it moves beyond the walls through the tiny spaces within the walls, reaching the streets outside of our buildings and our homes. And this bell, so that this awareness, faster than the speed of light, is the speed of thought. And so visualizing this awareness bathing the whole planet, wishing peace upon the whole planet, seeing every living organism as no different from the trillions of cells within our body, wishing peace upon this earth, but yet recognizing that peace, that both are related, the body and this planet. And as we wish for peace upon this planet, every cell, every one of those trillion cells that make up our body begin to balance, begin to heal. And now the final bell. So that this healing process may begin. as we move through our day from breath to breath and moment to moment, as we watch our worlds unfold before us, a process that has only just started. Thank you for joining in the practice. I'm grateful as always. Please feel free to unmute yourselves. It's a pleasure.